remove this cover, use a 22mm socket. Very carefully loosen these up. Slide that cover off. Take the lug nuts off, same 22mm socket. Take the wheel off. Take this bolt off right here, use a 10mm socket. Oh, and ours broke. Hopefully yours doesn't break. And just slide this bracket out of the way. Use an 18mm wrench and just loosen this nut up. You can use a ratchet wrench if you have one. Don't take the nut off completely though. All right, just leave a couple threads. That should be good like that. There's a couple different tools you can use to separate this upper ball joint from the knuckle. We're just going to use a pickle fork. Just get underneath there. There we go. Now use a pry bar, go underneath the frame, pry down on the upper control arm, and you can take that nut off. And very slowly and carefully slide the control arm up. Just make sure the tension or the knuckle stays pushed in. You don't want the CV boot pulling out of the CV shaft. And make sure there's not too much tension on the brake hose as well. Just going to use a bungee cord, or you could use some type of tie-down strap just to prevent this from pulling away. So just find a good area to attach that to. That'll be fine right there. Before you go any further, double check and make sure there's not a snap ring underneath here. This vehicle doesn't have one. And then you might want to cut this boot off. Just be careful that you don't cut the brake hose. And just grab it and rip it off. That's good. That'll just make going through the control arm a little easier. Now I'm going to use a ball joint press. Might have to get creative. Just find the top cup that's bigger than the actual ball joint. And then the bottom is just going to push it through as we tighten this down. If it makes it easier, you could pull this whole upper control arm out. Just take those two bolts out. There's a cam and the nut. Use a 21mm socket and a wrench. Same on this side, and that whole arm will come out. There we go. It's nice and loose. Means it's all the way through. Take the press off, slide it out, and there's the ball joint. Right there. Take the new ball joint. You can take the castle nut off. Take this rubber boot off and slide the ball joint right through there. And we're going to install it the same way we took it apart. You're going to need a cup underneath that is bigger than the ball joint, and a cup on top that's just small enough to push the ball joint down. Take the new snap ring and some snap ring pliers and just get this in place, just in that groove. Right there, just make sure it's all the way around. It looks good. And take the boot and slide the boot in position. Just like that. It's not going to go anywhere. Just make sure it goes all the way around. All right, you can take the bungee cord off and slide the knuckle in position. And just grab your pry bar and pry this down. And just pry this down. Make sure that boot's still in position. And then take the castle nut, get that started underneath. Now start tightening this down. If the stud keeps spinning, then you can use the pry bar and just pry down on the ball joint. You should keep it from spinning, but this one's good. If you have the ability to torque this with a torque wrench, you want to torque this to 37 foot-pounds. And see if the hole lines up with the castle nut. If it doesn't line up, so you can't get the cotter pin through, just tighten it down a little bit more. Now slide the cotter pin in and use some side cutters and just fold it over. Just make sure you don't hit the CV joint. And trim the excess. Take the wheel speed sensor harness and line this back up. Lock that down. Reattach it up here. And connect the connector. And reattach it to the body. All right, let's slide that down. That's good. And the brake hose, you want to attach the brake hose bracket right there, and then attach that 10mm bolt and snug it down. Ours broke, so I'm gonna have to fix that later. I'll put the wheel on. And the lug nuts. Now we're going to tighten down the lug nuts to 140 foot-pounds in a cross pattern to tighten the wheel down evenly. I'll just go around again, double check. Take the center cap, line that up, and then just with the socket by hand, just tighten these down. You don't want to strip them out. Keep in mind, after you're done this job, you want to bring the vehicle to a local shop to have it aligned because you don't want to have premature tire wear.